Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Fat Bloke's Shorts. In this week's episode, we're going to be covering the use of VirtualBox to run appliances, both creating appliances and also running appliances as well. In version 2.2 of VirtualBox, we introduced the Virtual Appliance Wizard, which allows you to import and export appliances. And what we're going to do here is imagine that I've been working on a particular virtual machine here. It's an Open Solaris virtual machine, and let's pretend that inside of there I've got a web server running in there with some kind of custom back-end logic which implements something called a wiki server. And now that I've got it just how I want it, I now want to share it. I want to either pass it on to my friends so they can play with it, or maybe send it into production, so that we can actually use the appliance wizard to export this appliance directly from VirtualBox. So all we simply do is choose the virtual machine, which is our appliance, and note that there could be multiple machines here, because you may have, say, a multi-tiered application with a web server front end and a database at the back end. But in our example today, let's pretend that the wiki server is just a single machine. We are now asked, do we want to fill in some information here? So we can say this is Fat Bloke's wiki server appliance. We can also provide URLs of both for the product and also for the vendor. So let's say the vendor is Fat Bloke Inc. We can say which version it is, 1.0. But one of the interesting things here is the license field as well, because if we were a real commercial vendor, we may insert here our formal software license agreement. But as Fat Bloke is a fairly amateurish outfit, we're simply going to say you can use this as is. And then we say next. Where do we want to store the files? Let's actually put them onto our desktop here, and we'll call it wiki server. And the checkbox here is whether or not you want to use this appliance not on VirtualBox but on another OVF compliant software platform, such as the VMware products. VirtualBox actually uses version OVF 1.0, which is later than 0.9, and so we don't need to check that. And now what we're doing is we're exporting that virtual machine, and the output will be two files. The first file will be an OVF file. OVF, by the way, stands for the Open Virtualization Format. It's a emerging industry standard for the description of a virtual machine. And secondly, there will be one or more disk files, virtual disk images. And so what's happening right now is we're converting a VDI disk image into a compressed VMDK format, which is actually a pretty good format for passing around virtual machines. So depending on the size of your virtual machine, this may take quite some time. So now is a good time to go and make a cup of tea. And so we're almost done, and you'll see that on my desktop here are the two files, the wiki server OVF file, which is actually an XML description file, and the virtual disk image over here too. Now, to show you the import functionality, I could very easily just import the OVF we just created, but let's do something a little bit more challenging. There are companies on the internet that actually have businesses which put together virtual appliances, and one such company is a company called Jumpbox. They do a great job in taking typically an open source operating system, adding some open source functionality on the top, and packaging them as pre-configured virtual machines. So they've got some stuff like content management system here, like document management. We've got some SQL databases, CRM, but I actually want to show you how I can use the movable type blog software to simply get a blog server up and running in a few minutes on VirtualBox. So the way we do that is we download that virtual appliance, and we simply say import the appliance. We navigate to where the OVF files are. I've got them in my home directory. And then we can see some of the basic configuration information about this, that it's actually it's a Linux 64-bit kernel this thing is based on. You can choose to change some of the different parameters. It's got 256 megabytes of memory. If you want to change this thing on the fly, you can simply do that. Let's do that. Incidentally, if you were a commercial software vendor and supplying virtual appliances with your software in, you can specify a software license agreement at this point, and VirtualBox would ask for the end user to click to accept your license agreement before they could import the appliance. So that's a useful feature to know about. So what's happening now is we're simply converting the portable VMDK format into a usable format, and as you can see, it's not taken very long. And when this is finished, you will see that we have in our VirtualBox list of machines the movable type virtual machine. Okay, so now we're going to just turn it on. So this is VirtualBox booting up this, I guess it's a Linux kernel based appliance. The guys at Jumpbox have done a little bit of polishing in terms of putting a splash screen on here, indicating how far through the boot sequence they are. So under the hood here we are just booting a Linux virtual machine, but it's all pre-configured with the software that we hope to use, which is blog software. So some of the nice stuff that the Jumpbox guys have done is thrown us into a console here where it says that the IP address of this server is listed just about here. And that what I can do is if I bring up a browser and I go to that IP address, which is 188 on the end, it throws me to an initial setup screen. So I can specify the name of the computer, specify an email address. So let's quickly put in our email address here. Which time zone are we in? And also a administrator password as well. You can agree to the end user license agreement here, and then you are effectively done. You have created a virtual machine that is now your blogging server. And it says here, if you're an administrator and you want to log in, you go to this link here. If you're just an end user, you could just navigate to this URL here. So let's see what it looks like at the moment. And you'll see that the blogging software comes with a simple template, an initial entry here. If I go back and go to the administration interface and log in, this is where we can have more control over our blogging entries, and we can enter a new entry here. So let's say VirtualBox rocks. This, oops. Okay, this is a blog entry on a virtual machine running on my Mac. And let's save that. And if we go back to where the end users can see us, you'll see this is a blog entry on my virtual machine running on my Mac. So within a few minutes, I don't need to know about configuring this thing. I don't need to know about configuring SQL databases behind the hood, configuring PHP or Java or whatever is behind this engine. I've simply taken an off-the-peg appliance and I'm running it in VirtualBox. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this session on virtual appliances, and I hope you can join us again soon on the Fat Blokes Shorts.